Hey gang, how's it going today? Been a long beastly week, as I mentioned in my status update on Saturday. Today, once we get started, we're going to be doing, as I hope you can figure out from the background and from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the Discovery Campaign Guide. We're at 170 subscribers as I record this, which is, a ridiculous number of people for me. Thank you all so much. The current goal is 200. Don't know what we're going to do when we get there. We may just say, hey, we hit 200 and then move on to the next goal. But I appreciate everybody who has subscribed. I would appreciate it if you would tell other people and maybe get them to subscribe. In the meantime, let's get on with this thing. The Discovery 2256 to 2258 campaign guide. All right, and here we are. This came out last year, I believe, 2022. Ah, there we go. Thing's got gorgeous images. You gotta see this thing in the book. The PDF here gives you an idea, but this is just a beautiful, beautiful book. The end papers here, and let me see if I can convince. And here are the closing end papers with the red angel bursts and the images galaxy from that. Some of you are asking, why should I bother with this book? I don't like Discovery. Well, I'll be honest with you. When it first came on, was not a huge fan either. I was very, very, very down on the first season. When the second season came around with Captain Pike showing up, I started getting more interested. And as things moved through to the end of season 2, which is where this book ends, I had really started enjoying it a great deal more. It's not my favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you should possibly reconsider. I know some of you won't. Some of you are adamant about it, and I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. But I think if you're on the fence, give it a shot, see what you think. Ride out the length of the season. I say, especially that first one where you got it takes some teeth gritting for me to get through that first season. But the payoff is eventually worth it. But, the intro introduces things. It does a really good job of it. I love the fact that it's laid out with dark text on a light background. I know some people will tell you that the high contrast with the light text on the dark is supposed to be easy to read. I am apparently a statistical outlier. I've got old eyes. But getting into the meat of the book, this is where a lot of things become worth it for the book. You may not like Discovery at all. You may not have any plans to do anything to do with the storyline in Discovery. That's fine. But if you are running a 23rd century campaign or something in between the end of Enterprise and the beginning of the original series, that 100 or so years span, 110 Enterprise ends in like 2155, and the original series picks up in 2264. So 110 years, give or take. This book is going to help you out tons, even if you don't plan on doing anything with the Klingon Federation War or the Red Angel Crisis, because the State of the Galaxy section of this book takes you all the way back to first contact with the Klingons in 2151 and fills in a lot of blanks. And it keeps on going. It also gives you this nice timeline, which so if you want to incorporate important dates from Discovery, you can. Or if you want to ignore and make sure you miss them, you've also got this timeline. It'll help you out either way. But it does a remarkable job of putting together a picture of what happens between the end of Enterprise, shortly before the Earth-Romulan War, up until the 2250s, when this book is focused on. And it does it not just a general overview, but it tells you what's going on with the Federation, with the Klingons, the Romulans, all the way, from their first isolationist period. You've also got a section on other factions, the Orions, Vulcan logic extremists. Again, a number of things just to help you through and figure out what happened, how you can incorporate that into the world building for your game. Then they've got a very good overview of basically the entire first season, the entire Federation Klingon War, from how it got started, the things that were building up to the end of the war, returning to Cold War. Got an excellent overview of the post-war period and the Red Angel Crisis. What is the Federation going through right now? Because they were getting their butts handed to them for most of the war. Very, very fortunate not to have gotten just completely wiped out. But it goes into, returning to exploration, tells how the Federation is doing after the war, how the Klingons are doing after the war, and then it goes into the Red Angel Crisis itself. This is the point where Captain Pike was temporarily given command of Discovery because the Enterprise was out of action. But it's got a full overview of everything that happened and how you can incorporate it again into your game, whether it be you want to do, you want your crew to take it on themselves instead of Discovery, or you want to play around it and know what's going on so that you can possibly incorporate some of that into your game. The whole section there is really well written. It's very, very informative. Since my game is in the, was. Let's be honest with you, that campaign has long since gone away, sad to say. Though I'm not opposed to eventually opening it back up. But that's in the future, and I've still got my captain's log stuff to do, and that builds off of the story in the 32nd century, which is something else entirely. This is just the first 2 seasons. The next thing we get is a fairly thorough look at the Terran Empire in the Mirror Universe, because as we all know, the Mirror Universe played a huge part in the first season of Discovery and a continuing recurring role in the 2nd and 3rd seasons. But you got an excellent overview of what is going on in the Mirror Universe. Some of their specific weapons and technology, because, well, it's a much more vicious universe than our own, and the Terrans don't fool around. They are not a nice bunch of people. Then, again, that's something some people don't want to have anything to do with the Mirror Universe. You don't have to. Yeah. This is one of my favorite sections, because I always like having options for playable species for my players. And this gives us 5 species and a kind of an add-on template. You got the Barzans, like Commander Non. Kelpians, of course, be very odd if we didn't include them in a book about Discovery. The Osnellus, interesting. I'm not sure how keen I'd be on playing one. The Zahians are a fun addition, and my personal favorites, the Saurians. Been looking for this for a long time, because in my Razor's Edge campaign, lo these many years ago, one of the first things somebody wanted to roll up was a Saurian, so we kind of had to fake it. And then you get the cybernetically enhanced, and it's not a species per se, it's an add-on, because as you may or may not have noticed, there's a lot of cybernetically enhanced people in Discovery. A lot of victims of the Klingon War wound up getting cybernetics, for instance. Excuse me. And if you want to make your own Ash Tyler, got some notes on how to do that. Some of the various fun science and technology things from the first 2 seasons. Baul technology. I can't remember if it's in here that I read it, but the Baul technology, when they finally joined the Federation, some of their organic technology is what some people are saying in their head canons, at least, is what led to bioneural gel packs in the Intrepid class and other ship classes in the 24th century onward. So if you want to include the Baul somehow, go for it. Time travel obviously played a big part in, to a lesser degree in the first season, but in the 2nd season, it was a major point of the plot. You get some rules on that here. Some stuff from Section 31 before they finally went back down underground. And then we get to what was the real selling point for me, because this book came out before Utopia Planitia. And what this book did that I really was very happy about, it threw in a couple of new mission profiles, but it also gave us a boatload of 23rd century space frames, so that all of a sudden you could do more in your TOS era game than just a Constitution or a Miranda. And this made me enormously happy. I was so happy when this came out. But you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 space frames, a couple of space stations, the K series. So here's K7, in case you were wondering what you were going to do with it. A logistical strong point. But the Walker class, that's the Shenzhou, which I think is a really neat looking ship. What I like about most of these Federation space frames is they're all class 3, 80, 100, 120 maybe crew, at the outside. They're smaller ships. They're great starter ships for crews in this era. If you don't want them all running around on Connies, which, trust me, I understand. I like running around on Connies. That's my baby. But the Walker is a great ship. My personal favorite, the Malachowski just looks tough, and it is. It's a monster. My favorite, though, is the Angle. Of all the classes in this book, I think I like the Angle most, because I'm always, for whatever reason, and I don't know why I do this to myself, but I'm always looking for some kind of, fast response, emergency medical type vehicle, hospital ships, and this is a fantastic frame to use for that. There are there are a few different mission profiles that you can add to this, but this is just it looks tough. It's fast. I mean, the engines on this thing are started in 8. It's a fun, tough little ship. These classes, think all of them ultimately wound up in Utopia Planitia, which it's great to have them all in one place. It kind of reduced the selling points for some people on the book, but what Utopia Planitia does not give you, and this may or may not appeal to you, but it does not give you Klingon space frames. And while there's a plethora of them in the Klingon core book, this book gives you way, way more of them. And yeah, they are, some of them are most of them are what people consider the really odd looking ships from the show. They didn't like them. I love the fact they explained that a lot of these things are remnants of Herc technology that they just kind of built on, and there's no real standardization of many of these classes. So you wind up with things like the Dashpu, or if you're really unfortunate, you wind up with things like the Nakjej, which is, I'm sorry, it's terrifying looking, but it's one of the stupidest. Hi, we're gonna make a ship that's designed to ram into you. Yeah, it's big, it's ugly. There's like one survived the Klingon War, so. But you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get 10 Klingon space frames. You get the sarcophagus ship. Wow. I never really looked at this illustration too close. It's really weird how much like a dragon that thing looks. At least the command pod up the front. And this thing, by the way, is gigantic. It's scale 6. It's huge. Fortunately, there's only one of them. Thank the powers that be. If you feel the need to have Section 31 muddying things up, you got a few Section 31 starships. You got your handy dandy ISS Charon, the palace ship, Emperor Giorgio's throne room and personal fortress. It also is huge. Then you get to the game mastering chapter, which is pretty thorough. How to integrate into different kinds of campaign. You got, obviously you got your Starfleet stuff. You've got your Klingon stuff. You got independent traders and things like that. Then you've got like a dozen mission briefs. There's like 8 Starfleet and 4 Klingon mission briefs. I did not linger too long, so I don't want to let anybody get too many ideas looking at it. Then you've got the traditional allies and adversaries. Many NPCs. Hairy mud, mud androids. Here's another situation where they did a little backdoor character species with the Baul. If for some reason you feel the need to have a Baul character sometime in the future, just like they did in Lower Decks and the core book even, you've got really everything you need. You've got the trait, you've got the attribute modifiers, and you're ready to go. You'll have to come up with talents and such on your own, but it shouldn't be a huge thing to come up with. A couple of creatures, the Gormagander, the space whale, the tardigrade. This gives them some idea of how to interface with the mycelial network. And don't forget that this thing is, the size of a bear. So you don't really want to mess with this one if you can avoid it, because it can survive the vacuum of space without any real issues. Then you got the mini campaign, which I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going up because I haven't really thoroughly read it yet. But you got 3 mini adventures back here to take your crew through. Not even really mini adventures. It's a mini campaign. Yes, adventures aren't minis. Serviceable index, and you got your back matter and your back cover, and that, ladies and germs, is the book. But that is the Discovery campaign guide. Probably give this one like an 8. If you're doing things in the 23rd century, if you're doing it later into the 24th, it doesn't give you as much, but it is, in my opinion, worth picking up, at least in PDF, to have access to the species write-ups and the historical information between Enterprise and the original series. Not, what I'd call a required supplement, but I've found it extremely useful. I didn't know how useful I'd find it with my 32nd century stuff for captain's log until I started looking through it again. It's like, oh, this is actually got a lot of useful information in it just to help me with timelines and things like that. I'm hoping that once the fifth and final season of Discovery airs next year, that we'll be able to put together a 32nd century Discovery book, because that would be hugely helpful to me. But that's many months in the future, years in the future, really, if I'm being realistic. Let's see. If you're not interested in if you're not really running in the 23rd century, it's not going to be as useful to you. But if you're running in the 23rd century, TOS, if you're doing things to Strange New Worlds, or if you're in the vast lost era between Enterprise and TOS, then this is going to, I think, help you out a lot. Not just the historical information, but the ships on both sides, Federation and Klingon, and the player species. But that's all I've got for you today, folks. Thank you so much for dropping in again. I appreciate everything you do. Please like and subscribe if you are so inclined. Pass the word. Share with your friends. If you feel like supporting the channel in any way. I've got tip jars. As Captain Rios has often said, cash gift is always acceptable, but it's not necessary. You can also, click on one of the PDF purchase links in my in the description here, and I get a small small commission at DriveThruRPG, and it doesn't cost you an extra single solitary penny, but you don't have to do that either. That said, folks, I appreciate you coming in today. And I will catch you on the next one. Figure out this whole camera thing one of these days. Live long and prosper, guys. Good night.